gonna make this video on camera, but I've been a bit busy lately, so it's just my disembodied voice over some gameplay footage. Not sure exactly what at this point. So what exactly is this video? Well, it's the first of a new series that covers the gaming media. I'm basically gonna talk shit about the gaming media, and I can't really do that without first talking shit about myself. Otherwise, I'd be some kind of a hypocrite with no sense of self-reflection or self-awareness. And that is something important to at least aspire to have. Not just when you're writing about video games or making videos about video games, but in general. It's important to have that voice in your head that asks you why you're doing something, and then another voice in your head asking you why that first voice in your head asked you why you were doing something. If you've read The We Free Men by Terry Pratchett, it's that. You need to have first thoughts, second thoughts, and third thoughts, and maybe fourth thoughts as well. Though by that point it gets a bit confusing as to where the thoughts began, and you start thinking that maybe you're insane. Which is actually a good place to start off. I mean, you have to understand at some point that the things you may be doing are a bit crazy, and analyze that. So this is the Wankfest of my career in the gaming media, not to be confused with the Wankfest of my career in industrial software development, which is what I'm doing now, and I still hate it for increasingly more bureaucratic and political reasons. At this point, I just hope that I don't end up in prison because I'll be used as some kind of scapegoat for some, I don't know, fraudulent European funding scheme, among other things. Quack job is still coming, so don't worry, you'll play my adventures in corruption at some point. It's been almost a year and I have still not decided on an engine. I could stop making these videos and possibly dedicate more time to that. But where would be the fun in you not hearing my annoying voice complain about a video game from 30 years ago that probably only 10 people remember playing? I have to preface this video, I mean apart from the current preface, by actually determining what my career was. I guess you could call it gaming journalist, but that's not really a good definition of it. Actually, the term gaming journalist in general is a bit, I wouldn't say deceptive, but misleading at times. Though technically that has bled over into what people would, they would identify as regular journalism. Here's the thing, I never went to journalism school or anything like that. I did a course, that's it. And I made that course like 3 years into my job. It wasn't a long course, it was mostly technical, but it did include a very important component, and that is stuff that you should not do because it is not ethical. It included bits about, standards that a journalist must adhere to, not be just some asshole with a loud mouth spewing crap. It's a bit like the Code in the Discworld books. You know, the Code, the one that Cohen the Barbarian and his Silver Horde live by. The Code is everything. When you believe in the Code, you become part of the Code. But forget the Code, dismiss the Code, deny the Code, and the Code would take you. Now, the journalism code isn't enforced by the elemental rules of reality as it is in Discworld. I mean, as the Code is in Discworld. There's a book in the Discworld series, by the way, that's just about journalism. It's called The Truth. I have it somewhere on the shelf. It's a fantastic book that speaks about, a lot of things. A very important one being constantly even more valid. What people end up doing when they believe things that are not true but are spoken often enough to seem as though they are. Anywho, enough about Discworld. The problem with the code of a journalist is that somebody has to enforce it. Usually it's the journalist that does it. They have to hold true to themselves as a journalist, to their belief in the code, in the standards. If they don't, can they be called a journalist? If there's nobody else to hold them accountable, like an editor or the audience, does it still work? And that's a very important question, because accountability is generally the thing that separates journalism from not journalism. The idea that what you put out in the world isn't just a fire and forget message. It's something that lingers, something that you are responsible for. Morally, legally, possibly down to your very soul. So what I'm getting at is what you would maybe call games journalists, or in some cases journalists, aren't really journalists. If the standards, the code is not applied, enforced, respected, then they cannot be part of that code, of those standards of that profession. I've tried to abide by the standards, but fundamentally I'm not a journalist. I did not get a degree in journalism. I was never technically hired as a journalist. I was just a writer. Actually, let's start at the beginning. 65 million years ago, after the Earth was hit by the asteroid which killed the dinosaurs, mammals started slowly taking over as the Earth recovered from the aftermath. And lo and behold, 64,999,900 and some years, in 2006, I had internet. Like my own internet connection. Broadband. After years of stealing other people's dial-up connections and depending on other people that had internet, I finally had my own. So naturally, when I got connected to the World Wide Web, to the information superhighway which contains the accumulated knowledge of the entire human race, I did what anybody would do. I pirated games, music, movies, tried to learn Japanese for a couple of weeks, then 3D modeling. Then I got really into dicking around with the Elect and Ogre engines for a bit. Gave that up as well, and did a lot of shitposting on gaming forums. On one of those gaming forums, I learned that something was about to happen. A TV station, one that only airs on the internet, was about to be released. It was being headed by one of the people that used to work on an old magazine, a gaming magazine that I've mentioned a couple of times, called Level, and it looked like the coolest thing ever. So went to the site, I signed up to the newsletter, and at some point it actually got launched. And doing live internet video in 2006 in Romania was difficult. I mean, we still had bonkers amazing internet compared to most of Europe, but still putting together that infrastructure, again, this is before YouTube had live videos, this is before Twitch. I'm not sure Justin TV existed at this point, but some people in Bucharest set up their own server and they were streaming live video over the interwebs. You know, a server that couldn't handle 1,000 connections at the same time, so it crashed, but eventually it started working. So I spent the next couple of months watching their videos, their shows, which again only aired live. There was no archive at that point. You had to watch it at one time. It was like regular TV. They even had ads. It was a different time back then. Anywho, they kept asking for suggestions, you know, for videos, and I suggested, hey, you guys should make like a series about the RPGs and how they started and what are some of the best ones out there, something that would come back to haunt me. Some of the shows were pre-recorded, but a couple of them were actually live, like live. You could interact with people. We would talk to the people on the show through Yahoo Messenger. Again, this is before the concept of a live video with integrated chat was a thing. And I was quite active in those discussions. That actually kind of made me sad that after a couple of months, interest in the live shows started to dwindle, and I was basically the only guy left talking with the presenter. It got to the point where they actually asked me, hey, do you want to be on some of the shows? I would have wanted to, but the problem was that I live in Brăila, which is not close to Bucharest, and wasn't really, swimming in the Mula, and there was the university thing, and my mom had cancer, and I couldn't really go to there, so that didn't really pan out, sadly. But in 2007, they did have a call in the forums for people to write, news, and yeah, sure, I thought this is something I could do from here. This is something that would work. So I applied and got ignored. The presenter of the shows that I frequently talked to, he left, and the reason why he left was that, well, I'm gonna get to that, but him leaving meant that his place had to be taken over by somebody else, another somebody from the forums who answered the call like I did not, and now they were expanding with, adding people to write news, and I was not among the people selected, possibly because my grammar is atrocious, and that at that time I was a bit of a... Again, I had only had internet for like 6 months at this point, but I was already becoming a person of the internet. I was talking in words like LOL and OMFG. It had been about 4 months since I learned the term or the expression for the win. It took me a while to figure out what it meant, because that's for winning would make more sense, or for victory, but for the win, I thought that the abbreviation meant feed the wolves or free the whales. Anywho, what did end up happening is that I became a mod on the forum because I was always there. I liked the concept of a TV channel dedicated to video games. I mean, how could people not want that to succeed, to support? How would they not want to support it? So the people on the forums, they kinda knew who I was, so they made me a mod, which was a terrible idea because I'm not built to be a community moderator. I easily get swayed by stupid arguments like, yes, even though you have a private platform here for which I had to register and you had to approve me, I have the right to say whatever I want and insult anybody I want, and that's free speech and you can't ban me. I believe those people and their argument, which... If you're pro free speech, yeah, great. Here's the thing, that's usually something that a toxic person says to justify their toxicity. When those people show up, instantly ban them. Like, don't even try to have a conversation with them. This is the same conclusion that Jeff Vogel got to. The guy who makes a whole lot of RPGs. He's been making them for like 30 years, 40 years almost. Avernum, Geoforge, that guy. He's right. He's absolutely right. But anywho, because I was a mod on the forum, some of the people, or one of the people working there, who again was somebody that they recruited off the internet, suggested that I get into the writing news aspect as well, so I did. Now, that was an experience for me because, on the one hand, I had never written news before. I had written game reviews for a fake website that I made, which was never hosted online, it was just hosted on my computer. But news? That was new to me. It was news to me, if you will. Ha ha ha. We didn't really get any training, any sort of instructions. We weren't given any standards to adhere to, except one, and for all his faults, the founder and owner of Arena TV had one idea, one rule that I absolutely agree with, and it is criminally underused in Romania when it comes to tech news and gaming news, and that is never simply translate news. It's something that you see everywhere in Romania. Well, actually, I haven't really read much Romanian gaming news in a while. Are there even sites that write gaming news in Romania? Well, there's Zone IT, which is another place I worked. I'll get to that. But the way things worked for a long time is that somebody in Romania would simply copy-paste an article from an English site, but, feed it through Google Translate or do their best at translating it and keep the exact same expressions, the exact same words, the exact same content. And we at Arena TV were specifically forbidden from doing that, and it's something that has shaped my entire sort of career. You have to be original. So even though I severely do not like, or at least had issues, massive issues with my former boss at Arena TV, I owe it to him that he instilled that value into me. Because just copy-pasting news would have been easy. It would have been so simple. I would have saved so much time. I would have saved months of my life. You have to understand, I wrote gaming news and tech news for 12 years on a daily basis. Sum that up. 3-4 hours a day for 12 years. Sometimes it was Monday to Saturday. On a low estimate, that would be over 400 days of my life that I spent just writing news. And it wasn't just writing, I had to go out and find information, verify that information from some other place. So, you know, I wouldn't post fake news or something like that, or as we called them back then, lies. But fake news is a really great buzzword which you can use to, spread fake news and pretend it's not. But it was difficult for me at first. I wrote really short articles, like super short, 4 sentences top, which wasn't ideal since these were news that were supposed to be, at some point, actually aired and have somebody speak them. And there were a lot of people that were more talented than me doing this. One of them was called Christina, and she had a lot of accomplishments in her life, which tragically ended last year. But finding out something like that, is somebody that you used to work with, like when you were basically a kid, just passed away, that messes with your head a bit. Anywho, I didn't think I was, gonna get actually recruited, but here was the thing, I was the only one that stuck to it. Everybody else either gave up or had disagreements with the boss of the company, which was supposed to be like the first red flag, you could say. But there I was, the last man standing. That's how I got my actual first paying job in the gaming press. Well, if you could define Arena TV as the gaming press, because none of us were journalists, none of us were what you would call a press entity type person. Arena TV wasn't, an offshoot of some paper, some TV station, something established. It was just something that a guy came up with and put together some money to do it. And to do it, he recruited other people that had been at various magazines. One of them, the guy that left and would end up being my next boss, he got into game journalism because he kind of loitered around the building where the editorial office of that magazine was, and at some point they said, "Hey, can you write?" And he said, "Yeah, okay, here's some games." And that was valid for most of the people working there. I don't think any of them had any journalism background. They just liked games, and an actual publication, decided to recruit people that liked games and get them to write about games. And that's how things happen. But it was registered as an actual, journalistic entity. Arena TV, on the other hand, I'm not sure if it ever was. That's actually something that would be prevalent on the internet. In the olden days, to get the word out, to publish something, you needed to have resources, like a lot of them. You needed access to a press, which is something that a paper would have. But on the internet, any random yabo can make a site or a blog or a thing, a video channel, and just start saying stuff with no consequences, with no cost. You could say that it's been democratized or liberalized, but we're getting back to the idea of the standards, the code. Unless that's also been, incepted into people, you're gonna end up with gaming news and gaming journalism as we've known it for a long time. Even when I started out on the internet in 2006, it was already kind of a crap show. But I'm gonna get to shitting on it after I shit on myself. So there I was, writing news, some of which I was not really qualified for. For example, I thought that a iPhone with 3 gigs of memory came out. No, it was an iPhone 3G, which I had no idea what a 3G was at that point because I did not own a mobile phone. I had actually spent several years without a phone because, we couldn't afford one. But as the weeks rolled on at Arena TV and I was being paid, how shall I put this? Not a lot. It would only be like around a couple of years ago when I left this career path behind me that I would learn things like, what you got paid by the month, most people made by the word. Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit, but I was paid around 300 lei, which in 2007 would have been around 120 bucks. I keep seeing Twitter posts from people that are game journalists, and they're showing, oh, this is my house, and they have more than one bathroom, and they own their house. And thinking to myself, did I get bamboozled all these years? Yes, I did. Massive bamboozling. So this wasn't just money I was getting for news. At that point I was already writing a variety of shows, including a history of the RPG. I'm gonna get that in a moment. And gathering basically everything that required video footage. I'd be recording it from games, I'd be getting it off game trailers when it came to trailers. I did not have a great internet connection at that time. I also had just a slow Athlon 64 with a fairly mid to low end 6600 LE NVIDIA GeForce video card, and that did not lead to very smooth gameplay for those shows. Thankfully I was not doing the editing because I didn't think I even could, but the writing bit, that I could do. And then came that show, that the history of the RPG. It sucked compared to the many variations of it that I would later do, but I was so excited for it. I mean, something that I thought of, something that I conceived, something that I alone made. Well, not alone, I mean the editing was done by somebody with an actual computer and the voiceover by somebody with an actual voice. Something that was my baby, in essence, was about to air, and that's it on the background. That's the ad for it. They made a commercial for it on their YouTube account, which they never used for anything else, because the boss was a bit paranoid that somebody would steal his shows. Well, all the shows are now gone. Are you happy? You're spending 300 euros hosting those videos on your own servers, rented servers, instead of, paying me or anybody else to work and not have to ask their neighbors for money to pay the power bill. Again, complicated relationship, massive red flags. When the show aired, it got about 70 viewers, which I was told was on par with what they were getting for your average, like, not final or semi-final Counter-Strike match, which was something that they aired. They had partnerships with ESL and a bunch of other stuff. They would air different esports events. 70 people. That seemed like so many back then. Now 70 people. If just 70 people watched this video, then the channel is even better than I thought. Sure, in the long run, more people would see it. And they did. And I kept on making those shows until until the stupidity really started to set in. So the dumb stuff began around the year 2008, at the tail end of 2008, when Arena TV had gotten a partnership with, I'm not sure who it was, maybe Altex, or maybe it was just the importer for Nintendo in Romania. They were given a Wii console to, review Wii games and stuff and make Wii related content. Problem was, I was the one making or writing most of the content. They were not gonna ship the console to me because I didn't have any way of getting footage from it or editing it. So what happened was that we were supposed to make videos of, like, I think it was 4 Wii games, 4 specific Wii games, for that promotion deal to go through. And it felt to me to make those videos. The guys that gave them the console were probably expecting game reviews, and I think ultimately that's what they were called. But I couldn't make game reviews. I specifically told them I can't make game reviews because I can't play the games. By this time I had done a bunch of reviews for games that I actually played. The first one that I did that aired, I think, was for Seven Kingdoms 3, or Conquest as it was probably better known, and did not really enjoy it that much. By that point I even got some articles posted in the Level Gaming magazine, which was the magazine I grew up with. Didn't get paid for that. I got a Team Fortress 2 for that, and man, having Team Fortress 2 in 2008, just let me tell you, that's living the high life, baby. All that in Diablo 2. The first thing I bought when I got paid at the end of 2007 was Diablo 2. Anywho, back to the Wii thing. What I did was I went through a bunch of reviews of those games and made basically a general overview of the game based on other reviews I had read. I was not really happy with what I did. So after I sent them the reviews, I just deleted them off my hard drive and said, oh, well, at least that's not gonna happen again. I mean, it was necessary. Somebody had to do reviews, otherwise they would have had to fold on the deal, and then there wouldn't be any new content on that side, and who knows what this will lead to. Maybe this will mean that they will get an Xbox or PlayStation 3 later, and they can then do shows about those and expand, you know, the ever idealistic stupidity I had that me sacrificing something like time, family, health, social life, ethics, moral standards would be worth it at some point if this project, this television station that aired only on the internet about video games in Romanian, would flourish, would grow. I mean, I would have loved something like this to exist for years and be something that I would have been able to enjoy. And I was here helping build it. I mean, how could I not sacrifice something for it when so many other people sacrificed so much for it before? If you have that kind of mentality for something that you do not own, that you do not make, that you do not fully control, stop. Just stop. Leave as soon as you can, because it will kill you. It will destroy you. I am not joking. That is not a red flag. That is a nuclear device exploding. So I deleted my reviews, then, you know, the ones that I had locally stored. It was fine. They were sent. They were on my email, my company email. And I went back to studying for my, I guess you could call them midterms. At this point I was no longer in engineering, I was in information science. It wasn't a good university college thing that I ended up in, but at least it was not doing engineering, which was a positive. When lo and behold, about a month later, when I was in the middle of the midterms, I got a message. Oh, do you still have those reviews? We accidentally deleted them. I said, oh, no problem. I'll just send them to you again. I'll just log into my email. Where is my email? Oh, well, you see, my boss told me your email had over 1 gigabyte, and it was just eating up too much space, and I needed to clean up space on the server, and it had 1 megabyte. But you know, webmail, it lists things in bytes, not kilobytes. So that meant that those reviews were gone, and I had to remake them, and I goddamn hated it. They weren't even about, you know, interesting games. One of them was about a monkey treasure pirate thing on the Wii. Again, it's... Things would get worse soon, because the guy that, you know, recruited me initially into the newsroom, he had a falling out with the boss, and he left as well. This was 2008. The recession started, and the boss told me, yeah, I won't be able to pay you. Thought, okay, we'll wind down the production of content for a while and see how things go. It was at this point that I actually got into that journalism course that I talked about at the beginning, which was being taught by the guy that left initially from Arena TV. The guy that used to be at the level, you know. At some point, I think he did get an actual degree in journalism. And his course was, I mean, apart from teaching us ethics and technical stuff, we had to make a magazine, which you're seeing some bits of it on the background right now. We were supposed to actually get it published, but because not enough people actually joined the course, and of those who did, we couldn't really come to a common ground, if you will, of merging 2 magazines together into one. It sort of fizzled out. It didn't really lead to any noticeable results in terms of us actually getting a magazine out, but that guy did become my new boss because he recruited me to write news for his site, Games Arena, which is where pretty much anybody in Romania knows me from. Not only did he ask me to write news, but he upfront told me he would pay me monthly, pretty much the same amount that I was making at the other job, writing all the videos, not just the news. It was a no-brainer in terms of, you know, actually accepting, but at the same time, I didn't want to quit on the other project as well, on Arena TV, because again, it's something that a lot of people worked really hard on building, including myself. The sunken cost fallacy is not something that I was really on the up and up with. It's something that I really recommend to other people to understand properly. Now, in some ways, this channel itself is a sunken cost fallacy, but at least it's an outlet for my insanity. So there's that as a positive for wasting my time making these videos instead of probably digging a bunker. Again, there's a war next door and it's not going great. But at some point, I think it was in the spring of 2008, Arena TV was making a comeback. A new site, we ditched the whole streaming constantly. We just had files hosted on, you know, the server itself, and people could watch them at any time. At this point, we could have probably just transitioned to YouTube, but again, the boss preferred to spend more money on hosting than on all the people working there combined. That is, when he did remember to actually pay me, I sometimes had to remind them multiple times that he forgot a month. Again, giant red flag: do not let people use your enthusiasm and your passion against you. Think of this as a cautionary tale. Don't work for assholes, especially, actually don't work for people from Brela, because he was from Brela as well, and you think, hey, he's from here, he's gotta have my back. No. Brelens, as we call ourselves, tend to be terrible people. I know I'm one of them, and I'm a terrible person. But things were gearing up again. He sent me a PC, the Pentium D. We did have, from a sponsorship with Miria, I think, we had a Q6600. Didn't get that one. I got the Pentium D, which was at that point kind of morally exhausted. Didn't even get any drivers like at all. I had to figure out a way to move things to it, even though I didn't have, you know, I actually couldn't afford a USB stick. USB sticks were kind of a new thing back then. Also sent me a microphone that was absolutely terrible. At one point my headphones just broke and I had to work without sound, which editing sound without actually having a way to hear it is terrible. But hey, I got a loan from a neighbor to get some actual functioning headphones because the boss had forgot to pay me again. Underlining again, massive red flag, gigantic, extreme red flag. But there I was, effectively making every aspect of some shows. We still had a voiceover for half the videos, but the ones that involved new games, essentially the Play Now format, that was something that was being done on Arena TV under the name install.game. I was specifically asked to not enunciate the dot in the name. I always ignored it because that's how it was named, install.game. That was it, not install game. Yeah. That was something that they were doing at Arena TV since 2006. That's where this format of the Play Now that you've seen on this channel for ages comes from. And the first one I did on Arena TV, I mean, was for the Ubisoft game Hawks. It did not air, it was just, you know, a proof of concept that I could actually do it. And it took a long while to actually get it done properly. I didn't really have the skill to do it. When you watch other people make commentary on games that they are playing at the time, they tend to seem effortless, but it's not. Actually having something interesting, witty to say, it's something that I did not have. I was watching a lot of Top Gear back then. There was a plugin, or not a plug, a service on Winamp called Shoutcast TV, where people would just broadcast pirate TV stations. One of them just aired non-stop Top Gear, and the way they talked in the news segments felt so spontaneous, even though it was, I actually don't know how scripted it was, but it felt so effortless, so cohesive. I wished I could do that. I'm not sure that I ever could, but I wanted to. It's probably one of the reasons why it was so easy for me to give up on scripting videos. I just tried to channel that energy. And instead of making concise videos with a point, this is gonna be over an hour long probably. They babble around and not really get to the point when they have to, like this video should have done like 30 minutes ago. Anywho, we were back to making videos. I was doing the editing, the writing, even the voiceover in some cases. And I think one of the first games that I actually made the full review of, including the editing. By that point I had written reviews for games like Fallout 3 and gotten the video footage from them. But with the editing as well, I think the first one was Red Alert 3, which I think I may cover it soon on the channel, even though it's probably going to be kind of in bad taste. I mean, The initial name for this series was Tales from the Trenches, but in the current context that seems narcissistic, self-aggrandizing, and stupid. Another name I toyed with was Press Replay. But episode 2 was already called the Wankfest, so I think this is just gonna be the name of the series from now on. It fits. Anywho, then came the debacle. I mean, apart from the former employee that I replaced, well, half replaced, because there wasn't anybody to pick up what I was doing when he was there, so there was some bad blood between him and the boss, and he was right in a lot of things, and the boss was right in some cases, summarized, you know, the cases that didn't involve the money. People weren't really happy that I was replacing somebody that they liked, even though, you know, I had been making content there for years. They had already been seeing my shows. There was an evident air of dislike, disgruntlement. That is why I tried to not, you know, highlight the fact that I was a different person than the previous presenter, even though my voice is totally different and I had a barely functioning microphone. It's why I never introduced myself in any video. It's something that I learned from Arena TV. I never mention my name in any video. I've never done that. It's from that pressure that the audience of Arena TV instilled into me. Well, some people specifically in the audience who, well, I hope they got alive, at least, at some point. And this isn't about criticism. Yes, some of the stuff I did wasn't landing right because, you know, I'd never spoken on camera before. Well, there was at one time with the interview in 2008 at Sheriff, but you know, never spoken on video like that. And it was gonna be a rough transition. I had to acquire new skills, and yeah, there was criticism, and the criticism was right. I need to get better. I need to have proper diction. I still don't, but some of the other stuff was just lunacy. Again, ban those people. Doesn't matter if you know them. Doesn't matter how much they hack you after that. Doesn't matter how much they threaten you or, you know, replace your website with Lemon Party and various bits of gore. Just remove those people from your life. Otherwise, you'll spend a decade with mental scars of never knowing if the next message you get on Skype will be from somebody saying, hey, hack your site again, or maybe from somebody saying, hey, you doing okay? You seem kind of stressed. I basically had to give up all my old Skype and Yahoo accounts because of those assholes. But anywho, back to the debacle of Arena TV itself. So the reason why the first guy, which was my new boss at Games Arena, quit was that he was making every show by himself, essentially. And I was now in the same position. The previous guy had the advantage of having me write the shows and collect video content. I didn't have any of that. At one point, I was making 80 shows a month. Thankfully, the voiceover was also there. Nice guy. I still hear him from time to time on the TV. He's still doing it. He even edited his own draft of the Red Alert 3 review at one point. Swell guy. But making 80 videos a month is tiring, especially when on occasion the boss again forgets that you need to be paid. And the nearest ATM is, well, it's not close. I have to walk a fair distance, like 40 minutes in total. At least it meant I got, you know, I got a workout because there wasn't time for much else with how many videos I was making. And hey, that's a sacrifice I had to make so that the channel could run. Actually, no, wait, in 2009, yeah, no, this was 2009. I think I got the years mixed up. In 2009, that's when I was left basically alone at Arena TV. It was when the recession like really hit its stride. So I started in 2007. 2008, that was the full year that I worked there. In 2009, when I was left alone, basically. And the thing is, technically, I didn't actually get paid until 2010. Because over the course of 2009, we came to the agreement of that I would work for free to pay off the computer, you know, the Pentium D, which, although it was a Pentium D, it did have a GeForce 8800 Ultra, which was the best video card on the market a couple of years ago. It was a bonkers good video card, and it cost a lot, and I basically worked for free. But simultaneously I was working at Games Arena writing the news, and that did pay me money. And actually there wasn't ever any issue at Games Arena. I'm gonna get to my time there in this video. It's probably gonna be 2 hours long or something. So at one point something super stupid happened. Actually, two super stupid things happened. Two amazingly stupid things happened. If you remember the game Stargate Worlds, you know that it was an MMO that got cancelled. And there was news flying around that, yeah, this game's gonna get cancelled. There was a website made by one of the employees with a counter for how many days it's been since they got last paid, and it was a long number. So I wrote a piece of news saying, odds are that this game is cancelled according to what former employees are saying and what pretty much everybody else is saying. This game is cancelled. Sad day. I mean, a lot of Stargate fans out there. I'm one of them. Would have been nice to play it, but hey, hopefully someday we'll get an actual Stargate game. And then the dumbest shit on planet Earth happened. Stargate Worlds seems to have had a community in Romania composed of a forum where I'm not sure how many people there were. When I accessed that forum at one time, I only found 2 active users, but the thing is, the one who set up that community, I forget his name, not important, he did the equivalent of calling or writing into the station and asked for a right to reply. That's something that journalistic entities have in Romania. I'm not sure if it's valid in other places, but if somebody writes an article about you, you have the right to answer any accusations in that same newspaper or on the same TV station. I never mentioned that guy. I had no idea who he was. I had no idea that this community even existed. But my boss, in his infinite wisdom, gave him the right of reply by making me interview the guy. Again, this isn't a developer of Stargate Worlds. This is just some random yabo on the internet that my boss made me interview because he did not like the piece of news that I wrote that Stargate Worlds was cancelled. His argument was, well, the community manager on the Stargate Worlds forum said no, it's not cancelled. It's still going on. So I had to interview the guy, not the Stargate Worlds community manager, no, the Romanian guy, so that we would come to some common ground and publish that interview on our blog. We had a blog as well. It was mostly non-functional. I think there were some issues with PHP back then, with PHPBB, with WordPress, pardon. PHPBB was the horribly secured forum, which led to a lot of hacking. But anyway, like a week after the interview went up, Stargate Worlds was officially cancelled. And it was at that point that I realized that I should probably not hang around here for much longer. That I'm not sure if it was around this time, before or after, when my boss at Arena TV realized that I was also writing news at Games Arena and went a bit ballistic, saying that I owe him all my fame, all my notoriety, all my achievements. It's because of him that I even have that job at Games Arena, otherwise who would have hired me? A nobody. Romania tends to have that mentality of, if you work here, you do as I say, because there's 500 other people at the door starving to work for half the money you do. Since this was, I think, 2010, I was actually being paid. I was getting, I think, 600 lei, which is around $250 in 2010 money-ish. Actually, this was after the depression, so there was probably less than that, maybe 200. Anywho, that would have been another massive red flag if I wasn't a moron, an absolute stupid moron. I should have quit right there on the spot, but he was paying me, so I kinda needed the money, even though he was saying stupid things like, we should have more game reviews. I mean, look at Level, the magazine that has a full staff and publishes 1 issue a month. Look at how many game reviews they have. Why can't we have the same? The obvious answer, because I'm just one person. They didn't really seem to, click. At some point, I don't know if he ever understood that playing the games is a core feature of writing the review. I think he believed that they just magically appeared somehow. I mean, had he not been the same person who told us, do not copy other people, write your own content, I would have thought he just expected us to, watch other people's reviews or read other reviews and just copy them. Which is something that the previous guy that I replaced, not the one that left, the first one that left, the previous guy, actually did. He had to. He couldn't put out reviews at the rate that the boss wanted and still be able to, play them. At one point, he verbatim quoted Yahtzee's review of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and then a week later actually asked me on Yahoo Messenger how he can get past the part in the game, the one with the big seesaw. It's something that he specifically called out in the review, which was posted like a week before, because apart from, reviews, we also had the walkthroughs, which were, playthroughs of the games, and he had to do them, so he had to do those after the review, which, again, the boss was crazy, and we hated him. I should have hated him more. Goddamn bastard. Anywho, things were not going well, and at one point we had the contest on the forums where people could win some monitors, and by some coincidence, a while before the contest began, the counter that, at the bottom of a PHPBB forum that showed the latest user registered, that broke, and one of the winners, actually I think the only winner, was an account that got created quite recently, and I think it was the boss. This is the guy that still had not sent me a Civilization 4 game that I had won in 2006. They had a contest in 2006 that I won. I won a Civilization 4. I never got that prize. So I wouldn't put it past him to do the same thing with the monitor. Then again, we did have some hackers. Well, one hacker. So it was only 2 people that could have, done something that monumentally monstrous. And of course I was being accused of it. Everything was my fault. I was actually the one that rigged the contest. It always was my fault, wasn't it? That's what I was afraid of. I was afraid specifically. The thing that kept me going, and the depressions and the exhaustion, the thing that kept me going was the thought, the idea that if I stop, there's nobody else. If I stop, all the work that everybody put into Arena TV, all the hours that we've all slaved away working on this project, on this beautiful thing, a gaming video station, TV station thing, just for Romanians. In Romania, it was ours. And if I stopped, then it died, and I would be the one blamed for killing it. It would be written on my tombstone. Here lies Unacomn, because he did not want to work, because he was a lazy piece of shit. What would have been a bright future for the gaming community of Romania to have their own TV station dedicated to video games died. What an absolute waste of human skin. This wasn't helped by some of the people in the community. At some point we introduced sort of not a subscription, more of a donation type thing where you would get access to some older archives in exchange for €3, which you could pay via mobile phone, out of which we got I think €2 because Vodafone kept €1, and a few small number, the same people that sicked the hackers on us who paid, really had a lot of demands. Like, for example, if the news was late for an hour, it should have been posted at 8 a.m. or at 9 a.m. It was late that day because there were some issues with the rendering, and there was just an update to Adobe, and I had to reverse the update, try to fix things. There was the mentality, well, I paid for it, where's my stuff? Dance, monkey, dance. Here's your quarter, dance. It got too much. It got to be way too much for me. So during a podcast, which I only did because the boss, it was supposed to be a podcast. It was supposed to be a weekend thing. We called it VERP. It was supposed to be short for Weekend Rampage, but what it actually meant was going to change every week. It was supposed to be kind of a podcasty type thing. It turned into a rundown of the news of that week, because that's what the boss wanted it to be, instead of, me just blowing off steam. During one episode, I think it was on the 11th of May 2010, I announced that I was quitting, and good luck to anybody that replaces me. I did try to get somebody trained to handle the news, at least in my absence, but it didn't pan out. I just left. That was basically all the notice I gave. At that point I had fully paid for the Pentium D. The video card, the expensive bit, blew up a week later. So that was the end of my adventures at Arena TV. It was an absolutely horrible time. If you ever find yourself in any work situation where you encounter any of the red flags that I mentioned, leave. No money is worth that. I know you may be desperate. I was too. I regret it. Thankfully, by this point, I came to an agreement with the boss at Games Arena to kind of make what I was doing at Arena TV, you know, the shows, for the same price, but instead of 80 shows a month, there were like 20 tops plus some articles. Now things were hampered by the fact that now I was back on the Athlon 64, which made actually editing videos and exporting them horrible, but since I wasn't doing daily news anymore, it was manageable. And there was nobody telling me, yeah, stop doing history videos on games that are so old and ugly. Really, that's what I was being told at Arena TV. That games like Master of Magic were too ugly, too old in the history show. If you watch this channel, you know that that's basically my bread and butter. I mean, if the channel was still monetized, making shows about ugly ass old games that look like they were not as much rendered as carved, with pixels as big as cows, and they're beautiful. They were beautiful when they were released. They were beautiful even now in some ways. But that's not something that Arena TV wanted, the boss of Arena TV wanted. So thankfully, at Games Arena, it didn't matter. At Games Arena, I had a freedom to do so many stupid things, and Claudio, I love the man. He just kept paying me. Our audience never really, took off. We had partnerships with several other publications, but we never had success, and the main reason for that is me. Well, it's the same reason why this channel doesn't really have much success. It's me. I don't really... Well, the content that I do is... Well, it's stuff like this. It's my voice. I hate my voice. I hate my voice in videos. Especially when I had the old microphone, the one from Arena TV. I hated my voice so much that to make it bearable, I just increased the speed. I did it once out of necessity because the game ran too slowly and it just sounded so much better, so I kept on using it. That's why some of the shows, the top 7 shows initially on this channel were sped up. That's how I did things. That's how I did them at Games Arena as well for a while. It became a necessity because a shorter video meant shorter rendering time, so I just sometimes increased the speed of a video by 15-20%. You could hear the squeakiness a bit in the voice, but it was shorter, and since I wasn't actually speaking faster, I wouldn't slur my words. I love working at Games Arena. I wish I didn't have the technical limitations that I did. It wasn't until like 2013 that I actually got, the Q6600 and 6 gigs of RAM and a working video card. And I can actually make content like I would have wanted to. Struggled with the microphone, oh so much. An actual decent microphone cost, well, more than I could reasonably invest in. Maybe if we promoted the content, it would have been better. Maybe if we had the switch to YouTube and found an MCN that, well, every MCN would have screwed us over, so I don't think that would have mattered. But at least we would have had the audience, I guess. Kind of the only thing that bugs me a bit about Games Arena was that at one point, as a paid promotional thing, I had to cover games. If you've got kids, or if you were a kid, you probably know a Disney series called Sophia the First. Had to cover a lot of those games. I mean, it actually seems fair that I did. I mean, people did spend a lot of time making those games. I know one person that spent a lot of time working on the Frozen Freefall game, and whenever he hears the music, he goes insane and blacks out. Well, there would be the other thing that kind of bugs me a bit about Games Arena was that at one point I kind of died, and well, I was still recovering from being dead. The boss said that, well, he couldn't pay me anymore, so it left me with a bit of a financial problem. Not Thankfully, I did get help from a guy whom I wrote some news in the form of a job at Zona IT, which is the only gaming project, news journalism project that I worked on that is still around. It's one that I have not killed. It's the one that makes me think that maybe I'm not a curse upon humanity, that everything I touch gets broken. Remember, actually I don't know if you remember, Gaming HD had videos with view counts in the millions before I came here. Raul was doing a lot better financially before I came here. But anyway, I got a job at Zone IT, just doing the news, and things were fine. Well, I did make my share of blunders. I confused Arduino with an Edison at one point, and people pointed that out. People called me out on my bullshit, and I like that. I confused Java and JavaScript. Now, in my defense, I was recovering from surgery. I couldn't yet digest solid food. Still, confusing Java and JavaScript is kind of stupid, since when I got my degree, one of them is in Java and in JavaScript, and I studied both of them. I still use both of them, and I got them confused. Then there was the Netflix debacle, where they were increasing prices, you know, like as a test, and my account was, you know, part of that test, and I thought, oh my god, it's actually something that's widespread. I better write some news about it. Turns out it wasn't that widespread. I was just in a really unfortunate selection, and I basically wrote fake news saying that it's gonna be increased based on the fact that my cost was increased. See, that's why it's important to thoroughly research your stuff, which okay, considering that my audition to Zone IT was write 2 pieces of news in 15 minutes, there's maybe not the expectation of accuracy, because you can't do that. You can't write 2 pieces in 15. Okay, I can if it's a subject that I'm knowledgeable about. I still had, and I'm not sure if I do anymore, the Arena TV mentality of crunching, of 80 shows a month, of working from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. and be happy with what you get and hope it's not a bullet. That's a quote from a Batman game. So when you work like that, mistakes are made, and sadly that's how things work. The thing you have to understand about internet journalism is that it doesn't matter a lot what you write, it's how many people you got to click on a thing. I really did not like clickbait, but statistically, mathematically, it's proven to work. It is astonishingly effective. No matter how many people claim that, oh, I will never click clickbait, they will. They absolutely will, constantly. They may expect you to give the entire summarization of an article in the title, but they will click on the clickbait, always. And they will blame you that you create clickbait even if you have a title that is slightly, not completely 100% descriptive of the entirety of the article. I'm just gonna say that their opinion doesn't really matter, because fundamentally sites that publish articles live on making money by getting people to click on things. Otherwise, the people writing them don't get paid, like I wasn't at Arena TV for so long. And sometimes to, get things working properly in terms of clickiness, you have to not bend the truth but split it. I mean, there was one point when my, I guess you could call him, editor at Zone IT asked me to split an article in 2 pieces. There was a bug in the release version of Metal Gear Solid where the game would lock up and your saves would basically get broken if you brought quiet on a certain mission. And well, the cause was known pretty much like right after the problem was discovered, but I was asked to write an article about the problem itself and to warn people that they should be careful and keep their save games, and then a few hours later write an article about the solution, with not bringing quiet. But how does that even work anymore? Information travels so fast that it was just pointless. I did it, again, sacrifices and stuff, but it was pointless. Then of course the other thing with well, NVIDIA was a sponsor of the show, which was also on TV, an actual TV, I mean, not on internet TV alone. And because of that, though, I was discouraged from mentioning that NVIDIA drivers would sometimes cause certain laptops to not work properly. I was specifically asked to blame it on Windows. I'm not sure if I wrote that article in the end. I remember scrapping it, but maybe that's just wishful remembrance and I did it and I'm a piece of shit. I mean, I already know that I'm a piece of shit, but even more of one. There was one funny thing that happened though. You know Lenovo and its incredibly horrible track record with security. I mean, it's a company that should not have been granted any sort of government contracts in Romania. And I fully believe that it got that contract through bribery because that's how things are done here. Anyway, they had a default hard-coded password for their Wi-Fi sharing thing that could be easily tapped into. The password was 1234, and I wrote something, not even in the article itself, but on the Facebook description, I think. I wrote something like, if you can count over 4, you may be too smart to work at Lenovo. And I didn't know that Lenovo was a sponsor of the show. It was mean of me, wasn't it, to say that? It was, but this is the same company that loaded actual spyware and malware onto their laptops and didn't allow people to remove them until they got sued, I think. The Superfish debacle. Anyway, this thing with the hard-coded password was something that Lenovo was made aware of months previously, and they did nothing to fix it. Nothing. And then as standard is for disclosure of vulnerabilities, there is a moment where you disclose the vulnerability even if the company did not fix it, or if they refused to fix it. And that disclosure happened and it was still not fixed because the Lenovo does not care unless they're threatened. And a couple of hours later, got a message from, guess you could call him the editor, saying I should probably not try to talk to the boss of Zone IT for a while. He is very, very angry at me and I could probably get fired. And the article that I wrote was quickly edited with the title, Good Guy Lenovo Fixes Security Issue. In just one day, Lenovo managed to fix something or other. They had 6 months to fix it. They did it only after the news broke. In the end, I got along just fine with the boss at Zone IT. He's a nice guy. I mean, initially we had some rough patches where he would send mass messages to everybody in the staff saying that if we can't get to 20 articles a day, somebody's gonna get fired. And I was writing close to 14 articles a day, and there were like 3 or 4 people in the newsroom, and maybe should not have included me in those messages because you can see who wrote them in WordPress. That was initially what made me go work for Raul at Gaming HD. I needed a parachute in case Arena TV happened again. I needed a way out. But in the end, my time at Zone IT was actually fine. The thing that was wrong with it was me. I had spent over a decade writing gaming and tech news, gaming and tech articles. I was tired, I was burned out, especially of the news, of doing it every day, the same ritual every day, unchanging. It became too much. It's been, 2 years since I quit Zone IT, I think. Yeah, I think it's been 2 years. I think August of 2020 was my last month there. They've been doing fine without me, and I'm glad. As for Gaming HD, well, you've seen everything we've done here. Well, at least you can see it. We had a live stream channel that YouTube pulled for bullshit reasons. I think we had some of our best work there in terms of live shows, so much comedic potential that just went up in smoke. One of the things you probably can't see on the channel was that one time that Raul tried to live stream a Call of Duty game while realizing that he potentially got his PC infected with a crypto miner. It was the funniest thing possible. All that and the Romanian streams that we did when I used the weather manipulation super weapon on him and his power went out. Gaming HD has been tiring though. 2018 especially, it was a year when I hoped that we would truly, rise from anonymity and actually achieve something. That's when I made the Years.Game series, which took a lot of work. I tried to revive the news show from Games Arena, and it proved to be a lot more tiring than I remember it being. I'm not a young man anymore, don't have the energy for that, I guess. Not in the best shape either. But anywho, The point I'm trying to make is that I'm some random yabo from a forum. I fell ass backwards into working in the games media and failed my way up to here. A lot of people are the same way. They may not be gaming experts or tech experts, or maybe they just had a bad day and they can do stupid stuff and say stupid stuff. And it can be fun to, call them out on their bullshit. Sometimes people take it too far. And sometimes it's not bullshit. Sometimes it's insidious. Sometimes it's just parroting what a PR company is trying to push and hoping that everybody eats the dog food and goes, yum yum, Mr. Sony, thank you, may I have some more? Why yes, 30 frames per second are better than 60. Well, thank you for joining me on this retelling of my sad, pathetic excuse of a career. I can't really say that what I'm doing now as a day job is an improvement. I spent last week with my head in some sewers. Did not find any Ninja Turtles. A lot of poop though. Quite a lot of poop. And basically that is it. Future episodes of the Wankfest will be shorter because they will have specific things they will be about. Not just doing what the gaming media does when it's out of ideas and desperate for clicks, which is talking about itself, usually in a way that makes it look like it's the victim. In my case, I don't think I was the victim, I was just a moron. I could have just left and found something better. So see you soon with more shows. I think I may be actually moving the Friday show permanently to Saturday to have more time to work on it. Next video is gonna be a bit of a retro technology thing actually. It's gonna be about my first PC, which I don't actually have it anymore. I tried to get it, but I wasn't able to. Still, it's gonna be about it and I'm gonna be using it somehow. Goodbye.